Week one is already off. I'm recording this on a Saturday, so you could say better late than never. But this week was probably one I'm most excited about, even though we're just starting with this project. Over the holidays, I realized ElevenLabs had song creation. So I made a nursery rhyme for my child, which is very cute. Made some things for the in-laws, but I also was wondering what would happen if I took my LinkedIn profile and made a song about myself. And the results were amazing. It was pretty much really relevant to what I was doing, and also was just a fun way of having a fun outreach. So I was sending them to friends, almost as a cold outreach, say, hey, long time no talk, here's a song about you, and the results were quite amazing. So I thought, well, instead of me having to manually do this, is a way of creating a workflow. And that's what I did with an N8N and ElevenLabs. Right now, I'm going to show you what I did. The results are amazing, and I also have a public URL, which you can also try it. Let me show you how I created this, so you can create it yourself. All right, so now it's game time. Let's see what I created. So all you have to do is enter your name here, and this actually name helps a lot with creating the song so we know who it's about, and LinkedIn profile. So N8N has a few connections. You can connect to ChatGPT, you can connect to Firecrawler. However, both of these tools are actually not that great at scraping LinkedIn because it's LinkedIn security. So a workaround would be to use Clay, because Clay actually has the ability to get all this data, or there are other workarounds probably to do this, but to simplify, all you have to do is copy and paste your whole profile, and I'm using an OpenAI call or prompt to just clean up the data to help make the song. So, and you'll see this as well when you see a copy of the code. So here, you submit it. This typically takes about 30 seconds. Other ways to do this, if you have an Excel sheet, you could probably do this for a lot of people at once, but this is just to test it out. If an error is thrown 9 out of 10 times, it is probably just due to the credits, because I'm on a little bit of a trial account here with ElevenLabs. So, and the song creation isn't that expensive. On average, an enterprise probably takes about 30 cents, I believe, or 50 cents per song. So here, let's hear the song and see.
Sees the code behind the care, turns a startup spark to a steady flame, building systems, change.
Looking a little bit like John Hamm over here, but I'll share this song if you want to hear it, or most likely try it yourself so it's more relevant to you. Or this is the really workflow and how it works. Now let's jump into the code behind it. So now that you saw how it worked, now let's see what the logic behind it. So as you know, this was starting as a form submission. One thing I realized is you had to fix the song, mostly due to the fact that there were inconsistencies when people entering their name, and this could throw errors when saving the file. Needing the OpenAI key, this is really the idea was because Firecrawler, ChatGPT can't scrape a LinkedIn profile, I made the user, as you saw, copy and paste their whole profile. And with this is just to clean up the data. So that when we throw it into ElevenLabs, it knows really what to create the song about. This is also to kind of create a few key points so that the song is a little bit more consistent, but still allows some creativity to see what ElevenLabs comes up with. Because this isn't really optional, I'm adding my ElevenLabs API key here. This is more for the fact that when you're sharing this, it's a little bit easier to know what we have to do. But more of the story is because the ElevenLabs node doesn't have song creation, we have to send a post request to ElevenLabs' APIs. So we'll be sending it over. And here writing to the file, I'm doing self-hosted N8N, so I have a file server so I can store all my files on here. But however, one thing I can initially do to make it a little bit easier is you could just save it to a Google Drive and send them the link and make them an editor. This is probably a simpler way of doing it because everyone has a Google Drive, especially if you want to test this out. Or if you wanted to create a bunch, do this en masse, then you could, for example, upload the files and send them an email in different ways. The ending form is what you saw, but also sending the user an email just in case this form takes too long. Or if they click out, now they have a recording of this because there's no way of accessing the form again once it's saved. I've also added over here the starting example of how I found how to send the API request to create a song. So this is everything you need to know. And you also check the GitHub where I stored all the code. So you can copy and paste this and kind of upload this into your own N8N to try it out. Let me know if there's any questions. Overall, this was a really fun project. Probably one of the more exciting ones I started off. Had a lot of fun when working on this with other people to teach them how to use ElevenLabs to make songs about them. Like I said, nursery rhyme for my baby. But how would I improve this if I had more time? There are really 3 major things I would improve. One is doing this at scale. I thought this would be a great, maybe cold outreach, but a fun way to do it at mass. Ways to work around with this would be to use a clay to then send a webhook, or using that API call so you can create mass songs. That's very possible and probably the best way of doing this. And then sending them a link. Another thing I would probably do to improve this is really adding more customability to the song creation, especially if this is something you want to make more interactive. Right now I have the AI predicting it, but you could have a drop down if I did this in Lovable to have the theme of a song, different types of songs, and that's actually very easy. There's a lot of control around how the song is created, so I highly recommend adding that in. So overall, I think this was a pretty good use of all these tools. I think there's a lot of utility on either just doing fun things at home with friends, but most importantly, I think for an outbound sales approach, this would be a really funky thing to do, especially if it's about a customer or a client you want to speak to. Always a way to get a response. So overall, hopefully you like this project. You can check the GitLab link I have with the code where you can copy and paste and build this yourself. Again, this is as you saw, very simple nodes, and follow along for week 2 where I'll figure out something else to build and hopefully you enjoy, and follow along for even more. I also have some big surprises coming up soon, so stay tuned.